Hi everyone. I hope you're all doing well. Today we're going to continue with our reading lesson God Sees the Truth but Waits. Our objectives for this part of the lesson are to explain why Aksionov was put in jail and the effect of that on his wife, to classify and point out the changes Aksionov goes through in jail, and finally to recognize and use vocabulary words correctly. Let's recall some important ideas from last time. So the main character is Aksionov, and he is a young merchant. He lives in Vladimir. We also found out that he is a handsome guy. He has curly, light-colored hair. He is full of fun and he likes to sing. He is also very optimistic and hopeful. And in the end, we found out that he is being accused of killing a merchant and stealing his money. Before we continue reading, let's take a look at this short list of vocab words that will help you understand this section. Petition, formal request to a higher authority. Perish, die or pass away. Downcast, sad, discouraged. Flogged, hit hard by a whip. Convict, somebody serving a prison sentence. Mirth, humor, joyfulness. Stooped, having the head and shoulders bent forward. Meekness, showing quietness of nature. God Sees the Truth but Waits by Leo Tolstoy, Part 2. So last time we stopped at the part where the police officer was accusing Aksionov of killing the merchant and stealing his money, while Aksionov swore that he hadn't done it and that he hadn't seen the merchant after they had had tea together.
The police officer ordered the soldiers to bind Aksionov and to put him in the cart. As they tied his feet together and flung him into the cart, Aksionov crossed himself and wept. His money and goods were taken from him, and he was sent to the nearest town and imprisoned there. Enquiries as to his character were made in Vladimir. The merchants and other inhabitants of that town said that in former days he used to drink and waste his time, but that he was a good man. Then the trial came on. He was charged with murdering a merchant from Ryazan and robbing him of 20,000 rubles.
So unfortunately, Aksionov was officially accused of murdering the merchant and robbing or stealing his money. So they even asked about him in his town, and the people said that he was a good man, even though before that, in former days, so in the past, he used to drink and waste his time, but he was known to be a good man. How do you think is this going to affect his wife and his family, especially after she told him not to start that day? So let's continue reading to see his wife's reaction.
His wife was in despair and did not know what to believe. Her children were all quite small. One was a baby at her breast. Taking them all with her, she went to the town where her husband was in jail. At first she was not allowed to see him, but after much begging she obtained permission from the officials and was taken to him. When she saw her husband in prison dress and in chains, shut up with thieves and criminals, she fell down and did not come to her senses for a long time. Then she drew her children to her and sat down near him. She told him of things at home and asked about what had happened to him. He told her all, and she asked, "What can we do now?"
So his wife couldn't believe what happened to them. She was upset. She was in despair. She lost her senses. She fainted and she didn't know what was going on. She was lost. She couldn't believe what happened to her husband. Then, when she was able to sit and talk, she talked to her husband about things at home and she asked him what had happened to him. So they talked about the incident that took place, and now she's asking him, what can we do now?
We must petition the Tsar not to let an innocent man perish. His wife told him that she had sent a petition to the Tsar, but it had not been accepted. Aksionov did not reply, but only looked downcast.
So Aksionov was convinced that he was innocent and that they should send a petition to the Tsar. His wife told him that she had sent the petition, but it had not been accepted. So Aksionov didn't know what to say, so he just looked downwards and he was very sad.
Then his wife said, "It was not for nothing I dreamt your hair had turned gray. You remember? You should not have starched that day." And passing her fingers through his hair, she said, "Vanya, dearest, tell your wife the truth. Was it not you who did it?"
So now his wife thinks that he is lying to her. So she is suspicious about her husband being involved in the crime.
"So you too suspect me," said Aksionov, and hiding his face in his hands, he began to weep. Then a soldier came to say that the wife and children must go away, and Aksionov said goodbye to his family for the last time.
Aksionov didn't know what to say to his wife. He just hid his face in his hands and he began to cry. Then the family had to leave and he said goodbye to them for the last time.
When they were gone, Aksionov recalled what had been said, and when he remembered that his wife also had suspected him, he said to himself, "It seems that only God can know the truth. It is to Him alone we must appeal, and from Him alone expect mercy." And Aksionov wrote no more petitions, gave up all hope, and only prayed to God.
So in the end, Aksionov wrote no more petitions. He gave up all hope, but only prayed to God. He believed that only God was the one who knew the truth, and to Him alone he should just ask for mercy, and from Him alone expect mercy. So here is basically the connection to the title, God sees the truth but waits.
Aksionov was condemned to be flogged and sent to the mines. So he was flogged with a knot, and when the wounds made by the knot were healed, he was driven to Siberia with other convicts.
In the previous paragraph, we found out that Aksionov was not treated well in prison. He was flogged with a knot, he was hit hard, and he was sent to Siberia with other prisoners in prison.
For 26 years, Aksionov lived as a convict in Siberia. His hair turned white as snow, and his beard grew long, thin, and gray. All his mirth went. He stooped. He walked slowly, spoke little, and never laughed. But he often prayed. In prison, Aksionov learned to make boots and earned a little money, with which he bought the lives of the saints. He read this book when there was light enough in the prison, and on Sundays in the prison church he read the lessons and sang in the choir, for his voice was still good.
Notice how Aksionov has changed. Obviously, he has been in prison for 26 years, so he has become an old guy. His hair turned white, his beard gray, long and thin. He could barely walk. He didn't speak much. He never laughed. and he wasn't such a fun person anymore. He only prayed. Also, he learned to make boots and he earned money. With that money, he bought a religious book, The Lives of the Saints, and he also participated in the prison church. He read lessons there and he sang in the choir. So these are the physical changes that Aksionov goes through. We also notice that there are inner changes. So he was full of fun and he laughed a lot, but he doesn't laugh anymore, and he's not very optimistic about life anymore. He doesn't really have hope much. So, what do you think is going to happen to Aksionov? Let's continue to see.
The prison authorities liked Aksionov for his meekness, and his fellow prisoners respected him. They called him Grandfather and the Saint. When they wanted to petition the prison authorities about anything, they always made Aksionov their spokesman. And when there were quarrels among the prisoners, they came to him to put things right and to judge the matter. No news reached Aksionov from his home, and he did not even know if his wife and children were still alive.
So, Aksionov has changed a lot. He has become a very calm person, and we can say that he has become mature. The prison authorities and his friends in prison as well, they respected him a lot. They called him Grandfather and the Saint since he was very religious. And whenever they wanted anything, whenever there was a problem in prison, they would go to him and ask him to judge the problem or the issue and fix things and put things right. In the end, he never heard anything from his family. He didn't even know if they were still alive. Next time, we will continue reading to see what's going to happen to Aksionov. Answer the following questions in your own words. Use complete sentences. 1. Why was Aksionov put in jail, and how did this affect his wife? 2. What changes did Aksionov go through in jail? Identify both the physical and inner changes in the table below. And number 3, fill in the blanks with the correct vocabulary word from the box. Make the necessary changes. So there are 4 sentences. Complete these sentences with the words in the box.